Um, right. The data from our map is readily downloaded by anyone off of the map itself. So this is, the principle is you don't need permission to list Paris in France. You shouldn't, it should be possible to see all of these projects as part of the emerging commons.
Yeah.
And so there we go. Have you seen our big map? Should I give you a look at it?
Can I be completely honest? I've been Googling you guys, but I found something, but I haven't seen the map. No.
That's fine. Okay. Then let me give you 3 minutes overview of ERA and of the map.
Yeah.
So the website is ecorestorationalliance.net. We have, Cole can give you the numbers, but on the order of 200 groups and individuals involved with it these days. We're all united in the belief that the only real hope for restoring a normal climate and preserving the biosphere is eco-restoration. That while greenhouse gases, well, that's right, that greenhouse gases are an important part of a story, but the greenhouse gas story is too simple, and it's liable to send us in the wrong direction when we could still pull it out of the fire.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I think the carbon focus and the whole net zero climate neutral pledges are a bunch of bullshit, if you ask me personally. Sorry for my English. I believe in the ecosystem service in the broadest sense. So anything from biodiversity, healthy ecosystems, provide anything from the computer we're now having this call on, to the energy that we need to facilitate that, to the wood that we use for purposes, to the minerals that we need to fire up our Mac computers. Anything comes from a healthy ecosystem, and I think we just become way detached from nature. And therefore, I'm not an activist. I'm not a scientist. I'm a communications expert, and I believe that's exactly what's been missing in the equation in the world of NGOs trying to do the good, is because they tend to tell very true stories, but not very compelling stories. And the funny part is, just a short introduction, if I may. So I've been doing this for 9 years. Previously, I was in the same role as CMO for an HIV/AIDS-led charity. We did exactly the same thing. We took it out of the scientific, boring, top-down educational, you should wear a condom, and this is the danger, doom and gloom scenarios, etc. And we just came up with a concept called Dance for Life, which was basically aimed at young people all across the globe to have them from a positive angle and from a communication angle, using music, using media, even before there was social media, to make sure that they understood this is not something you have to do, this is something you would want to do. And I believe ecosystem restoration has suffered from the same issue. When we started, people were looking at us with big eyes when we told them about restoration of the land to restore the climate. They were looking at you like, what are you talking about? And now more and more, unfortunately, it had to take the 9 years that were already active for people to become aware of the fact that there is in fact an issue, and that it is affecting all of us. It's not a third world problem or a first world problem. It's a global phenomenon. And healthy ecosystems determine whether we have a livable planet for the future or not. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the converted and singing to the choir here, but the more I dive into this material, and again, I'm not a hydrogeologist, I'm not a scientist or anything at all, but I do know quite a bit about ecosystem restoration by being in this industry for 9 years. And it's not, regreening is not rocket science. It's the simplest thing on our planet. The human factor complicates things, as always. It's the nature will take its course, and it's the most powerful source on our planet. But yeah, it's where humans and their interpretations of what reality is like come in, where it gets complicated. And we've just started bottom up, grassroots, with restoring smaller parts and then bigger parts. And then we started to communicate with the farmers and with the communities. And we found out that was super effective, and they completely understand it. If you do it in their own language, in the right medium, in the right tone of voice, not trying to preach to them, just trying to inspire them, facilitate them, not trying to bring a solution from America or Europe to Africa, because that never worked and it never will. Just trying to be there for the local people who have a vision and a good heart to do something good, and then, you know, build the partnerships around that. And so now we're in a position. Have you seen our latest Just Diggit story?
I don't know. Do you want to show it?
Yeah, if you're all right with that, I would love to show it actually, because I think it summarizes perfectly what we have been doing for 9 years. All comes together now to this momentum, and yeah, it's really becoming really interesting now. For the last, I would say the last, yeah, maybe 3 years, I've really seen something. Oh, someone's in the guest room. I'll admit him if that's okay with you guys. Don't know who it is.
Oh, sure.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. If it's breaking up because of the connection, just raise your hand or anything, because I don't want to have you watch 3 minutes without being able to follow it. But here we go.
Global warming is moving in fast, and we only have this decade to slow it down. Hi, we are Just Diggit, here to regreen Africa and cool down the planet. By restoring degraded land, we bring back vegetation and have a huge impact on water and food security, biodiversity, livelihoods, and our suffering climate. We've been doing this from the ground up, hand in hand with local communities and partners in Africa for over a decade, because regreening is done together. In Kenya and Tanzania, together with local communities, we dug hundreds of thousands of water butts, or as we like to call them, earth smiles. So rainwater can enter the ground, turning dry land green again. Our grass seed banks are women-led. Maasai women regreen the land, sell the seeds, and create their own social enterprises. Together with Lead Foundation, we inspire farmers to recover trees with a technique called tree covery, also known as Kasiki High. Selected farmers are trained to become champion farmers, so they can go back to their villages and train thousands of other farmers. We then visited these rural communities with the movie roadshow and inspire them through film, music, education, and dance. At the same time, we share our message in all forms using mobile phones, radio shows, murals, billboards, TV ads, and influencers. Over 10 million recovered trees are now alive and kicking in Tanzania, and hundreds of thousands of hectares of land are brought under restoration in East Africa. Spreading the word is the path to better soil fertility, more crop yields, improved lives, and a cooler microclimate. That's why we are scaling up regreening through communication together with partners like Havas. In Africa, we use positive storytelling to empower farmers to regreen their land and improve their lives. In Europe, we touch the hearts and minds of people with engaging campaigns, inviting them to dig in. Meanwhile, we join forces with other organizations in African countries such as Togo, Madagascar, and Ethiopia. The next big thing will be the launch of our mobile app. With this app, farmers are empowered to regreen their land themselves, wherever they are, without the need for on-site organizations or trainings. We are building a regreening movement, together with farmers, NGOs, ambassadors, brands, institutions, and you. This is the decade of doing. So let's do this. Dig in. Cooling down the planet. Just dig it.
That's it. I couldn't put it better myself. It's, you know, that's our 3-minute video where we say, look, it's not that complicated. We just need to do it. It's a decade of doing.
So I've already saluted you. I think it's really just right. So we have been struggling with this question of how are we gonna change the conversation, get the word out, get, by the way, the attitude from doom, gloom, despair, or techno-suicide towards, let's just dig in and get the job done. It's not rocket science. We can do that. So I frankly have zero advice for you, which doesn't always happen. I think what you're doing is great. The real question is, how can ERA support what's going on? Charlie, I'm going to say hello. I'm not sure if you meant to join this meeting, but you're welcome to join it. This is Wessel van Eeden from Just Diggit.
Hi,
And
Charlie.
and we're mid-conversation. And you're on mute, but that's okay. So, Wessel, the ERA includes Charlie, includes other organizations like Regenerate Canada and Alfred Brown Allen, a number of other people. I believe we've sent you some background.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I can answer any questions you have.
Well,
Your time is.
I would only have one question, because I think it's the most fascinating question of all, is where would you like to be and what is your role in getting where you want to be before 2030?
It's a really good question. We don't have an organizational answer yet. You've been doing this for 10 years. We've been doing it for maybe 10 months. Okay. And we're still, dealing with organizational issues like, are we an organization or are we just a community of practice? Are we a networking pool for collaborations, which we are, and has turned out to be a really valuable function? Mm-hmm. Or do we have some specific organizational goals? I can tell you that I think that I am trying to figure out how to break through with the idea that we can solve this problem if we engage almost everyone, almost everywhere. That's all it takes.
Well, amen. That's all I can say. Restoration is not rocket science, like you so rightly said, but it would require all of us, whether you're living in Putin's Russia or Biden's America or Xi Jinping's China or in any state in Africa. We need to do it as one people, one planet proposition, or we're going to fail.
As usual, I can't improve on what you just said. So I'm going to show you my version of how we might help engage almost everyone, almost everywhere. So now I'm going to screen share.
Yep.
And this is what is sometimes called, there you go, the big map to save the future. And as you can see, we are highlighting eco-restoration projects all over the world.
Yep.
And members of the ERA in such a way that wherever you go, you can see, first of all, that this is happening all over the world, that it's not rocket science, that it can be done, and here's proof, and here are the people doing it. And so wherever you are, you can find people who are doing this kind of thing. But as you zoom in, you realize that while there are pins all over the globe, they occupy a very small amount of the Earth's surface. And sure, once you understand the problem, you can realize that we actually need to dig in to a not small portion of the Earth's surface, and then everything will be better for everyone. So what you can see here is that we have a number of collections, if you will. We have the Global Earth Repair Hall of Fame. We have a collection of our ERA members. We have a collection from regen.earth, which includes videos about interesting places all over the world. And the question is, you must have a listing of Just Diggit sites. And
yes,
would you be willing to let us celebrate them and hopefully recruit more people to get on board on the big map?
Absolutely.
All right. So I will follow up with that, but let me ask a few questions. Do you have an existing map or a list or a spreadsheet?
Sorry. You mean locations?
Yes. And
well, we're on Restore because we are well connected to to our friends at the Crowther Lab. And
Very good.
even though we are a very non-political organization, and we know Crowther is a very science-backed organization, but also has strong ties to the World Economic Forum and other organizations, we believe that we all have, the change has to be made together. So we are not more Catholic than the Pope, as an expression in Dutch. I guess you understand what we're saying with that. So we work together with brands, because if you are more Catholic than the Pope, the only brands you could work with would be, Patagonia or Tony Chocolonis. But we believe the change has to come broad in society. So we don't do exclusivity. So we work with anybody with a good heart and good intentions. That's our criteria. It sounds very vague and it's very spiritual, but that's our threshold. So we really look at the people that are approaching us or that we approach and see if we feel that their intentions are genuine and authentic. And then if they're, like so far this conversation feels like you're very authentic and very genuine. So yes, we would love to work with you. And we are as open source as you are. We have no IP. We share anything we know about anything with anybody, also about our media and comms approach. We give it to other NGOs. We work for other NGOs pro bono to make them grow bigger, which is really weird in the world of NGOs, because normally that would create a competition. But if the word competition ever falls in this domain, that's where I disconnect, because I believe there is no competition when it comes to saving the planet. It's a no-brainer. But sometimes you get disappointed in how the NGO world still feels like they're competing for the same fund or subsidiary
I'm
or
with you.
bullshit.
Well, so that's a third.
I'm sorry, could you show the map again with Brazil? I like Brazil.
Yes, please. Let me put on sharing here. Okay, and this is what you want to call attention to, right?
Yeah, Wessel, we are digitizing the actual site boundaries of as many of these sites that you see on the left, which serves a couple purposes. One is to show the real extent of where eco restoration is going on, and the second to provide a sense of or need for connectivity between these various locations.
Yep.
Basically, this is my job to do that. So if you have sites and you'd like to join with us, if you can provide outlines for us, I'll provide you instructions as to what we're looking for.
Right now, Wessel pointed out that they're already on Restore. I have not found a way to download data back from Restore. They're a little open source.
I can get you the GPS location, but you have to understand one thing, that the nature of our approach is that, we have some projects in Kenya, for example, which are pretty clear. You can see them from Google Maps, you can see them from satellites, and we have data. We work with Planet Skylab, and we have beautiful before and after images from the iPhone sky. But the project I'm most excited about is, first of all, the mobile app, which you saw in the end of our movie, where we are now. We have raised 1.5 million euros, which is now less than $1.5 million, by the way, but that's interesting, to build this app. We have media partnerships with National Geographic, Facebook, Havas, all of the media, not only in Europe. We don't focus on America, so that's why you probably don't see a lot of just Diggit in America, because we really believe, hocus pocus, keep the focus. Europe and Africa are geographically determined to be together for, at least many years to come. So we have a strong focus when it comes to communication, first of all, in Africa, because that's where the change really takes place. But then we also really believe in regreening the hearts and minds of people, because they're in dire need of solutions. Because the doom and gloom, even Leonardo DiCaprio, who I highly admire, don't get me wrong, but if you keep telling people a story about the shit that's going to happen, they will end up being numb and just close off and say, well, I'll just sit in my home with my children and make the best of it for whatever time is left, which is the worst energy we can get people to be in. Because like yourselves, I believe there are solutions. They are achievable. But therefore we don't have a focus on North or South America or Asia or Australia for that matter. But having said that, so we have strong media partners. We never pay them for anything. So we get advertisements out of home, in cinemas, on TV, in radio, social media, all of that is sponsored. because we have a positive story. So you were at the beginning of the conversation, John, you were telling me about, giving me a big compliment about our storytelling, but it's a really simple ingredient. You don't have to be a professional. Just tell a story of hope and inspiration and show the power of the resilience of nature. And the one thing about the earth smiles, the semicircular buns that we dig, you can beautifully say before and after, because that's where, where the magic happens.
That's right.
That resonates with people. But having said that, it's going to be really hard to give you specific locations on all of the smallhold farmers, because it's a very communication-driven approach with radio shows and movie road shows and stuff like that. So we have currently in Tanzania about, don't pinpoint me on it, 200,000 smallhold farmers practicing our regreening techniques, but they're scattered all over the place. We know in which region they are, but we don't have the exact, like pinpoint on Google Maps. This is his farm, this is her farm.
But if all we're doing is giving pins, we don't need the exact location. If we're doing polygons, we want to make sure that they're in the right place.
Well, what we do have, though, which could be another interesting angle, we ask all the farmers to take pictures of their trees. So we have a gazillion pictures 4 times a year. Every farmer who's practicing tree cover or FMNR, farmer managed natural regeneration, or Kizikihai as they call it. There's many names for this technique, but we ask them to take pictures of every tree that they restore 4 times a year. Because we're also preparing ourselves for this huge issue that we have with the carbon credit market. Because on the one hand, we hate it. We think it's a bullshit excuse for the Western world to keep polluting. On the other hand, it could be a very interesting financial incentive for the smallhold farmers to pay them for the trees that they protect. And as you probably very well know, we live in a closed system. So whether you regenerate a tree in New York, in Amsterdam, or in Nairobi, it doesn't really matter, because the carbon sequestration will influence the global system. Long story short, so we do have data on the counties, the locations we're working in, the partners we're working in. In Kenya, we can give you clear boundaries. Let me show you this. 1 second. Let me share my screen one more time, because I told you we're working with Planet Skylab. Well, let me show you an example of the. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the images taken from May 2018. So you see the boundaries. It's similar to the ones you tried to show me in Brazil. And look at what happened. And this, again, I'm so proud of this, because it's not we don't own satellites, we're NGO. So this is what's recorded from space. And we're talking hectares and hectares and hectares of land. So these kind of data we have. But again, this is the bun digging. So that's really visual and communication, as a communication guy, really useful to get people inspired.
You bet.
But I would rather focus on the FMNR Kizikihai, because you don't have to pay the individual farmer to do the regreening, because it economically benefits them, because the combination of trees and crops will increase their crop yields, will increase their soil fertility, their shade, and thereby their livelihood. So that's where really the magic happens, if you ask me. But I can provide you with all the details on our projects, project locations, partners, and stuff like that. And if you would be considering to feature that on your global map, we would be honored.
We absolutely will. We will make it one of our curated collections, and every item will link back to your website or whatever source you want for that particular site. That I agree with you. The before and after pictures, on the one hand, they are embarrassingly similar, often brown and green, but each of them is an important demonstration, and they mean a lot. Now, if you have individual people taking pictures of the trees they're saving, so I don't know what plans you have, but to the extent that you can give us a bunch of data in whatever format comes naturally to you, I can write a script that will then work through it and find some way of putting it on the map. And I will promise you that we'll link back to whatever source you tell us to link back to. And I think it would be good for us and good for you, because it's just an exemplary thing you're doing.
Well, I'm liking everything about this conversation, because the mindset you have, open source, win-win, we're all in it for the same mission. So the one thing I'm just honestly going to flag here is we're in a super crazy momentum, which is Diggit, which is great, because I've been doing this for 9 years. Like I said, in the beginning, it was just like, pushing
Slow
pushing something up a mountain where it doesn't want to be pushed, and now it feels like it's over the mountaintop, and all we have to do is run after it to make sure that we deliver upon commitment and make sure that we don't overpromise and underdeliver. But I'm not a tech guy, as you probably could have guessed, but I will connect you to our program guys who can give you all the coordinates and all the details. In the meantime, you can find a lot of our work on Restore. I will ask them to give you a login where you can download it, because I know they have the same mindset. They don't care sharing data. That's what the whole platform was designed for.
Okay, well, that's great. We'll follow up on that. Even when I have logged in, I'm not aware that I'm allowed to, how I can go about and download my own data. But
no, but there is a functionality, but they don't make it publicly available yet. They will, but again, I'm not a Restore promoter, but I do know that's something there. You know, I like how you began, John, is where you're saying that I want every person that plants a tree or digs a hole in his backyard to be able to publish that on a map. I love that. I think that's where it should go, you know, because then it becomes of the people by the people. I think that's the major step we have to take, because then everybody can see their own, you know, if the shrub or a tree on the map, you feel part of a bigger initiative. Spiritually, that helps because you feel part of a bigger movement. So I know that's also the vision behind Restore. So have you ever spoken to them?
I've written to them several times for obvious reasons, and frankly, we're only 8 months old. We don't have nearly the footprint or the recognition that you or they have, and they've said, great, we're looking forward to working with you, but right now we're focusing on building out our platform.
Sure, but in all honesty, I in their defense, I can say they're also in a growth momentum, but they do.
I am not complaining.
No,
I recognize that.
But they do have the same mindset as you and I, is where they feel it should be everybody working together for the same cause. So that's all I can say. So if you want me to give a push towards the CEO of Restore or any of the tech guys to say, look, I know you're busy, but please talk to these guys, see how we can exchange data, I'm more than happy to do so.
That's really perfect, because that's what we need. But I think the way to proceed, Wessel, would be to connect with your tech guy. Let us use your collection of data just to show what we can do with those data, and then say, listen, we have some things that you'd like to add to Restore, and you have things that we'd like to make more accessible by also showing them here. And that's when it would be great to talk to the CEO of Restore.
Hey, and if you're US based, right? Or let's say North America based, do you work with One Tree Planted and such initiatives? Or for South America, do you work with Renature? Do you know these initiatives? Because
I've rubbed elbows with both groups, but no, we haven't had direct conversations with them. If you would be willing to make an introduction.
Yeah, both of them are like family to me. The founder of Renature, Felipe Velila, is working a lot. He's Brazilian, but he's working a lot on restoration in Brazil with his counterpartners, fully on regen agriculture. And One Tree Planted being one of the biggest NGOs in North America, obviously. But I know their communications director really well, and she's a great person. So I would think, you know, she would love to explore how you can have the One Tree Planted projects featured on your map as well.
That's very exciting. Listen, so you did mention that you also help other organizations develop their marketing strategies and get the word out and so on. I look forward to taking you up on that, but frankly, I think I'd like to do the things we've just talked about, introduce you to the ERA. I don't want to be presumptuous, so I'll just ask, would you and Just Diggit like to be affiliated with the Eco Restoration Alliance?
Well, we're not the NGO that has a full due diligence and NDA bullshit process in place, which has it comes with certain risks. I always, like I said, we judge people by their intentions and their good character, and sometimes you get disappointed and then we withdraw, and sometimes you get surprisingly good rewards most of the time. So yes, but affiliated, we don't sign MOUs and agreements. We just exchange and cross promote, and that's the way we work, because we believe in the goodness of intention and the goodness of people.
Fair enough. So we'll pursue that. There's one other topic that I do want to mention. We formed as I say, about 8 months ago, 10 months ago, specifically under the impetus of the Elon Musk carbon removal X Prize.
Yeah.
And we said, these guys are making us crazy, and they want to give away $100 million for the wrong purpose. But
Well,
our
I don't know
tribe-
if the purpose is wrong. Maybe their knowledge of the way they want to approach is wrong. But I think the
well,
intention.
that's right. So our strategy was to say, let's compete based on the notion that we're actually drawing down more carbon than any newfangled technology they're going to come up with. And
Yep.
let's get them to think about it a different way. And
Yeah.
that was sort of our
our
rallying.
We were in the X Prize a few times. Honestly, I know this call is being recorded, so don't send it to Elon personally on Twitter. Oh, which he will own, by the way. I just learned today. No, I think the X Prize is a great initiative. It's a good way of raising awareness because Elon Musk has a lot of eyeballs, but it's all, I always say during most of my presentations, we live in a world where a solution to be considered a solution has to be high-tech and complicated and only understood by the happy few who are intelligent enough to understand the technology behind it, which I think is complete and utterly bullshit. I think the solution is the most low-tech solution that we're facing is Mother Nature. And I don't think that the X Prize will at any point in time soon be considering a change of mind shift because they're Tesla, SpaceX driven, and I get that to some extent because I admire Elon Musk for some things. I don't admire him for some other things. If you're in the spotlight burns. So there's always stuff to say about people like that. However, having said that, I don't think there's worth putting your energy and time as a startup organization. Let me frame you and us still like that. I wouldn't put your money on the X Prize because I don't think that's.
Oh, no. We have been saying to each other from day one that we're not doing it for the money and we will not win. But many of us, including me, still think it's worth having that hat and that voice in the ring in order to change the conversation and to force people to actually compare the work of people like you versus people who are trying to invent something brand new and high tech.
Well, actually, the mobile app. Okay, let me again. Do you have 5 more minutes?
Absolutely.
Let me share my screen. So we are actually doing something very high tech and very mobile, which is this. Okay, I'm going to take you to this really quickly. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this is where I start with my natural introduction to the SDGs and nature being 37% of the solution to climate change and biodiversity and the cooling effect of vegetation, rainwater harvesting. We'll just dig it for nothing. Here you can see the buns. Capturing the rainwater. What more proof do you need that rainwater, which would normally flow away over land, not being able to infiltrate into the soil, would now be able to infiltrate. So, and then here you can see in 4 years' time what the change in the ecosystem is just by digging some holes. Yeah, so that's the simple pitch that I usually take. But then this is the farmer managed natural regeneration pitch, which is even more interesting because it's working on the premises of 350 million smallholder farmers across sub-Saharan Africa, which is more than the population of the USA, if I'm not mistaken. And we have come up with this idea based on all our experiences in, doing movie roadshows and billboards and SMS services and all of that stuff that we thought, look, every village we come to in rural Africa where they still live in, let's say limited circumstances, people have mobile phones. So instead of growing our own programs, we have now started boosting other programs. So we're now financed by the German government in Togo, Madagascar, and Ethiopia to add our communication approach to the already existing infrastructure of regreening projects in Togo, Madagascar, and Ethiopia, which is great and it's very scalable. But the ultimate scalability lies in what we call now, it's a working name, never a consumer-facing name, moving beyond programs. So this is Tanzania. We have regenerated 10 million trees in this part. It's exactly the size of my home country, the Netherlands. But we want to go to this scope and we're going to do it next year. And why? Because we have 10 years of experience with, restoring ecosystems. We find out the needs and the dynamic of the smallholder farmers, at least in East Africa and now beyond. The mobile growth is there and the data collection through satellites has become so much more easier. 48% used to own an internet-connected device in 2020, and you see the change happening. Here you see some more. It's a lot of data. We would never present a slide like this. But I think it's interesting to know. A third of the people in sub-Saharan Africa will be using mobile internet by 2022, which is now rising to nearly 40. And the newest insight just told me it's going to be 60 by 2025. So they have a mobile device with an internet connection, which will also drive some apps, not all. It's not like they can run, TikTok, but they can run basic apps. So here you see 5G technology increasing super fast, faster than we could ever imagine. Here you see the Sentinel, Planet NICFI, and Planet newest. So the newest satellite recognition is 50 centimeters per pixel. So we can identify any tree from the eye from the sky without the need for white jeeps or bullshit trainers or controllers on site, which makes the old NGO model completely abundant or not necessary anymore. So basic idea is we want to make everybody in sub-Saharan Africa with a mobile phone and an ambassador of regreening. The way to do that is to empower farmers without the need for physical presence on the ground. And this is the app. So if you have a mobile phone, you can scan this QR code. You'll get it's more a marketing thing, to be honest, but you get an idea of what we're trying to do.
Sure.
It's not functional yet, but if you scan the QR code, you get our test version of the app. You'll be one of the first.
I'm on my way.
So with this app, we believe we can, it's going to be free of data. So the farmers don't need to pay for the data they use because data is money and that makes it complicated. So we can give tutorials, incentives, and educational components, inspiration, entertainment, gamification, keep track of the progress, available on Android and KOS, because iOS is nothing in Africa. Lightweight, so we can even run to the Android bubblegum, which is like, I don't know, 8 years ago. And we're developing this. We just raised 2 million euros or dollars, like I said, to fund this. And it's also a feedback loop for the global data collection on regeneration. So we might think from the University of Wageningen or Harvard or whatever, that that's a mango tree, but the farmer on the ground is able to tell us, no, fuck you, it's an acacia tree. Get that right. So it's a 360 feedback loop, also improving the quality of data that we have. And then together with these partners, so JCDecaux, Facebook Africa, Havas, Simply Black, NetGeo, and many, many others, we will create a momentum where every farmer in Tanzania knows, or his brother, his sister, his daughter, or his grandfather, hey, look, and we're not talking about climate change or global warming. We're talking about your soil is more fertile than you think. You can make more money out of your farm than you did previously. So that's what we're doing. And then ultimately, we are already working together with the 1Ts, the AFR 100, blah, blah, blah. So we will make this app free of white label, free of charge, available for anybody working in restoration. We're focused on Africa, so this is the African context. But you can imagine this can go beyond Africa. And then this app will basically empower farmers to restore their own land, make more money, even looking at carbon credits and carbon sequestration. And we can start paying farmers for restoring trees on their land. I mean, there's no need for Mzungus, white people like all four of us in this call, to go to Africa and control them, or even local people to go to every village and control them. It's a locally owned, locally led initiative, completely technology and innovation driven. So if there's anything X Prize worthy, I would say this would be the case.
Well done. Well done. We described something along these lines as what Eco Restoration Alliance and our members were working on. And do you know that we have a fairy tale in America? I think it's a European tale about Rock Soup, the beggar who comes into. Okay, so that's basically my strategy, right? So here we are. At some point, I'm going to follow up, and on the assumption that we are working together well and we're trying to amplify each other's messages, I will ask you, as we need to talk to all of the members, whether we want to go back to the X Prize, which did accept us as credible contenders. In 3 years.
Good for you. We never got to that point.
Yeah, no, it was quite an arduous process, and we took them seriously and we took us seriously, and they said, great. We look
Yeah.
forward to seeing what you're gonna do. You're enrolled for 3 years from now. And
Yeah.
when that happens, if our story remains true, which remains to be seen,
Yeah.
we will say, we now have this many members who have collectively restored these many acres as
Mhm.
visible on this big map and these spreadsheets. And
Sure.
our partners have helped us estimate the carbon drawdown estimate. And here we are. And here's how we are trying to popularize this whole notion. Now, in all of this, I'd say you're way ahead of us, but if in fact you become part of the alliance, we actually may be in a position to say it's not just Diggit. It's not just Diggit. It's not just.
But
That's
look, I get where you go. And look, I hope you get from the conversation we have so far. We're not in it to be promoting just Diggit. We're in it to get as restoration done as fast as possible. So if there's any network or any opportunity for you guys to leverage on our work or our storytelling capacities to make your work go faster, go for it.
Okay, listen, I've gotten far more from this call than I had any right to expect. I will follow up. If you will connect us with your tech guy,
Yeah.
we'll follow up with some other things.
He's actually in the States right now with Google. Google has a
Cool.
Google for Good Summit in San Francisco every year in their, the Oval Ring, whatever they're working in. And we're part of, because we're doing so much with data technology, satellite technology. He's currently in San Francisco. He's going to be back in a week and a half.
I didn't attend, but my picture and my other organization were on the main stage at Google I/O about 5 years ago when they were celebrating Enable. So I have a picture of sort of me in front of 200,000 people. No one thought to invite me. Nonetheless, they're not unaware of these kinds of efforts, and they're really quite interested in them. And we had funding from Google.org back in the day.
We get a lot of funding from Google in kind. So no financial funding, but really support in AI, machine learning, data, insight scientists. Yeah, they get it. I mean, of course they get it. They're very highly intelligent people, but no, I think it's really cool, man. And I applaud your mission. And I think what you guys are doing is great. And again, with certain risk, we're not the kind of organization to go to due diligence and sign all kinds of NDAs and MOUs, because we just feel if you screw us over, we'll just withdraw and say, well, it's on them and we're this, and people know that we're this. So, but that's the way we want to change the game, because we're currently in partnership with so many big NGOs and all of these bullshit processes, which take 6 months for you at least to sign an MOU. Which I believe is exactly the reason why we're in the shit we are in today.
Okay, this is called singing to the choir. So let me say that we have preaching to the converted, exactly. We have what has been our bi-weekly town hall meeting today in 4 hours at 3 o'clock. And one of the things we do is we give new members an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Yep.
Our next meeting will be a month from now because we're moving to a monthly schedule. Yep. But if you wanted to give the same presentation that you just did, that PowerPoint,
sure,
either in 4 hours or in 1 month and 4 hours, you would be most welcome.
4 hours from now is going to be difficult because I have to pick up my daughter. But no, a month from now is definitely workable for me.
Okay, so we'll follow up with that. Wessel, it is an absolute pleasure. And let's just follow up.
Look, I really enjoy meeting people that you've never, through LinkedIn, and now we're sitting in this call. I know Enos did a lot to make this call happen. Again, so sorry, Enos, for not always being there, but it's sometimes really funny how things are supposed to happen. And I don't know. I feel you guys are doing something. One question I have though. If you're talking about we only doing this for 8 to 10 months, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what you're saying, right? Why would you not be wanting to be? Because, okay, don't take this the wrong way. Just honest, critical feedback from 10 years of experience working on ecosystem restoration. With the best intentions in the world, I believe the world is not going to be saved by NGOs. The world is not going to be saved by governments. The world's not going to be
Right.
saved by the United Nations. The world's going to be saved by people and corporates and institutions. That's what I believe. So why would you not want, I mean, are you a group of people voluntarily doing a great thing with a lot of insights? That's where I'm not completely clear yet. Why would
Sure.
you not, with the vision and with the map you have, with all the restoration, why would you not become a, social business enterprise, or whatever you want to call it, the foundation, whatever the shape or form is that you feel most comfortable with? But we need to be institutionalized in the sense that we need people to take this shit seriously. It could not be a byproduct of voluntary people who mean well. That's my main frustration with this industry, is there's so many people wanting to do good and they mean well, but then they kind of say, yeah, but I have my daytime job. What you guys are doing deserves a proper organization with a proper network, with proper funding, and with scalability.
It's a great question, and it was diplomatically asked, and now I'll give you an honest answer.
It's not very diplomatic, yes. And we're known
That's
for
all right.
being very, very direct and rude. We're Dutch. I'm sorry.
I have a thing about the Dutch. I think they've got it just right. So two questions. One is, I'm not Wessel van Eeden. What I can do, and what I have done a couple of times, is sort of bring together these international networks of genuinely well-meaning people who are trying to do things that established governments, enterprises, businesses, and NGOs have failed to do. My prior and ongoing venture had to do with open source 3D printed prosthetics and a global network of volunteers, and we give away for free these 3D printed mechanical hands. It's all over the world now, but it's a small niche problem. But it reaches people who have been failed by all of the established institutions.
Sure.
So while I am a failed entrepreneur from 20 and 30 years ago, I started a company that became a public company that had to do with digital rights management before open source went along. I didn't do that particularly well. And what I have done and do know how to do is sort of bring together good and interesting people to try to do things that established institutions have failed to do.
Mm-hmm.
That means I'm neither particularly well suited nor particularly inclined to lead the formation of an NGO or a foundation or a something.
But you wouldn't need
There's
to.
some. Let's hear it. Wessel, what would you suggest?
The heroes from the first hour, the guys with the vision, the guys with the heart and the mission, are never the best leaders for any scale-up or organization.
That's right. That's right. I've also had the experience of bringing in someone to do all of those things, and
exactly.
it didn't go well.
Okay.
That's just personal history. Yeah, me too. In 10 minutes.
No, I'm going by myself with my son to get food.
Okay, bye.
And I'll bring it back.
Okay, sorry, folks. So that's just to explain why we haven't done it yet. We haven't had a critical mass of people, including me, who have been able to say, yes, this is the obvious way to go, and we have the resources to take a good shot at it. To be quite honest, Wessel, Just Diggit is a very coherent and focused activity that you're doing marvelously. So I don't really expect this to be true, but if Wessel said, I think there's also a need for an ERA and I know how we should take it forward, that's another conversation for us to have. But right now, I don't feel that I personally am playing with a full enough deck to know how to take that game forward. And while I've invited other members to step up and help us figure it out, it hasn't happened yet. That's the answer to your question.
No, but it's a very, very honest and fair answer, and I fully appreciate that. But my role in life, weirdly enough, seems to be to keep inspiring people like yourself, who seem to have a very clear, genuine background, experience, learnings, good heart and a mentality to do things for the right cause, is to get them to get serious about being in business. Because the world is being dominated by people making money, polluting the world. So we need more people to stand up and do something good for the world, and also make a business out of that. Like Patagonia. I'm sure you heard about the Patagonia founder
Of
who
course.
gave away all of his rights. You know, I'm not saying that's the benchmark, and it's easy to say, but I really believe, you know, Ecosystem Restoration Alliance should be a proper 501 registered American nonprofit, and it should have media partners, and it should have ambassadors and donors, because there's a market for it. And I'm not saying this because, you know, if I was in the business of making Just Diggit the only global brand, I would say, no, guys, keep on doing what you're doing. I believe we should all inspire each other. You have your skills, I have my skills. We all inspire each other, and together we can make something magical happen. But that's the mindset we all need to have, and that's what I find in this conversation. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because I believe we can all make each other better people, and we can all lift each other's missions to the next level. You can take mine to the next level, and hopefully I can add a little bit of vision, or at least an opinion, to what I think of your organization. My strong
That's why
opinion
it's
is,
such good news that we've joined forces today.
yes,
We'll continue this conversation.
we will. All right. Well, thanks
Okay.
so much, guys. And yeah, let me know. Again, in all honesty, we are super tied up in a lot of stuff. So I'm not going to promise you have all the technical data on the locations and specs, etc. by next week, but we're on board. And just send us your requirements on what we need to do, and I'll get the process going.
Well, that's great. And when you're talking to your tech guy, I think it would be great for him to give us a sampling sooner rather than a comprehensive inventory later. Okay.
For sure. I will talk to Restore, because we put a lot of time and effort into registering our Tanzania project on Restore. I know that's now fully detailed with all the boundaries and all the mapping and all
great.
that stuff. So let me get that data to you guys, and then you use it, and then we'll take it from there.
Dynamite. Okay.
Excellent.
I won't
now-
see you this afternoon, but we'll be in touch well before.
We will. And one more thing, since we're not focusing on the US, we're completely not. I mean, we get some, you know, people influence, you know, the world is connected like that. But
Sure.
if you feel like you need some advice on go-to-market storytelling, videos, social media, and stuff like that, I have a network which is global, but I'm not using the US leg of it, because it's not my primary concern right now. So if at some point you feel like I want to leverage on how can we get some, I don't know, basic trainings, insights, brainstorming workshops on how to take ERA to a next level in the US, I probably can give some quick fix connections to you that are more than happy to help you pro bono, to brainstorm with you on the, you know, the video I showed you at the beginning. We don't,
Yes.
you know, it's done by other people. We just give them input and they make it for us.
That's great. I think we're going to do that. I'll think it through, but it's a great offer. And there's nothing about what you're doing that isn't applicable to vast swaths of the American Southwest.
Exactly.
So it could be that we can help advance you in an area that's not your current focus.
Well, it's not even about advancing us, just advanced nature-based solutions and restoration, and then I'm a happy camper.
Okay, good, good. Okay, thanks so much. Great to meet
Thank
you.
you so much, Wessel.
Thank you so much, guys. Pleasure to meet you. Enos, I know you've been a silent adherent, sometimes applauding, but thanks so much for taking the effort to connect the dots.
Yeah, no problem. It was nice to meet you, and thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Be in touch. Thank you very much.